Hello everybody, welcome to Coding 101. My name is Scooter, and in today's video we're going to be creating the famous Tic Tac Toe game. Now Tic Tac Toe is a classic game that everybody knows and loves. Don't know if most people love it, but yeah, it's a very classic game. It's famously called Noughts and Crosses, X's and O's, and it's a game for two players who take turns marking spaces in a 3x3 grid with X's and O's. The player who succeeds in placing about 3 of their marks in a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal row is considered as the winner. So this is a famous game that everybody knows. If you don't know much about this game, have you been living under a rock? So we're going to be constructing this game, and we're going to be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to do this. So nothing complicated about this. So I'm going to encourage you again, once again, please do subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you like this video and leave a comment in the comments section if you would like me to do more games like this. I'm thinking of doing a snake game and a couple of other games. So if there are any other things that you would like me to do, please make sure that you leave your comment in the comments section. I'll be happy to respond to that. So let's get into our game today. First, what I want to do is actually just give you an illustration of what we're going to be doing in today's video, of how we're going to be constructing this tic-tac-toe game. Of course, the first thing that we have to do is we have to construct the grid. And in order to do that, we're going to need, I'm just going to do a rough outline of this. So we have to construct the grid. In order to do that, we're going to have to utilize grid. If you're not familiar with grid, it's I think you might have to do your research on grid before you watch this tutorial. So we're going to use grid to construct this grid that you see over here, which will be the map for our tic-tac-toe game. And we're going to be using grid and div in order to do this. And our divs will allow us to manipulate. Actually, we're going to be using a lot of DOM manipulations in this game. We're going to be using DOM manipulation to place our X's and O's in our grid. So that's very important. And how we are going to realize that somebody has won is that the first thing that we need to do is that we need to find out the combinations of wins in this tic-tac-toe game. We know that a person has won if they have managed to place their symbols in a horizontal manner like this. We also know that a person has won if they have placed their symbols along in a diagonal manner like this, and even a vertical manner like this. So what we are going to do in this case, let me just draw a different graph over here. We're going to give each of these boxes some indices, some IDs. This box is going to be 1. This box is going to be 2. This box is going to have ID 3. This box is going to have ID 4. This box is going to have ID 5. This one's 6. This one's 7. This one 8. And this one 9. So we know that a person has won this game if they have managed to place their symbols, or if they've managed to put their X's and their O's alongside boxes 1, 2, and 3. We also know that somebody has won this game if they've managed to place their X's or O's in boxes 4, 5, and 6. We also know that somebody has won this game if they've managed to successfully place their X's and O's in boxes 7, 8, and 9. And not just there, we also know that a person has won this game if they've managed to place their X's and O's along these boxes, which is a combination of 1, 4, and 7. Excuse my writing. We also know that a person has won this game if they managed to successfully place their numbers in a vertical manner like this in boxes 2, 5, and 8. We also know that a person has won this game if they've managed to place their X's and O's in a horizontal manner like this. So that's boxes 3, 6, and 9. And lastly, we know that somebody has won this game if they've managed to place their X's and O's in this manner. That's 7, 5, and 3. Oh, actually, I think there's one more, We know that a person has won this game if they've managed to place the X's and O's in boxes 1, 5, and 9. So we're going to use these winning combinations in order to figure out if a particular player has actually won this game. Now this game is going to have 2 players, so it's going to be a game of turns. After player 1 is done playing, player 2 will get the chance to play. So I think we get the gist of how we're going to construct this game. I just wanted you to have a bit of like a roadmap or just a bit of clarity on how we're going to tackle this problem. And now we're going to go into our code. I've already created the HTML skeleton. So the first thing and I've already created some index.js file and the style.css, and I've linked it right here at the top. All right, now we go into our body, and I just want to create like a section. And inside that section, I want to have a heading. I'm going to say H2. I'm going to say Tic Tac Toe. And then underneath that, I want a label that's going to show whose player turn it is. Give it a P. So it's going to be show, like, for example, the first person to play is, of course, is player X. I'm going to give it an ID. That ID, I'm going to call it game, because it's going to show whose game is it to play now. And then underneath that, I'm going to create an H3, which is going to ultimately show who has won the game, if there's a winner. Still in our section, I'm going to create a div container. I'm going to create a div cell inside of that. I'm going to give it an ID of 0. That should do. And then I want them to cascade down like this. I want to have a couple of these divs having like different numbers. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should do. And then underneath there, I want to have a reset button. I'll call it reset game. Okay, so let's see what we've done so far. Okay, we haven't done much so far. So we just have the title that we've put at the top over there. And then this is where the label that is going to tell us who's playing next. And we have our reset button over there. So we need to construct our grid. We've already did our container. So we're going to use these cells over here that we've created, these divs, sorry, to construct our grid. And in order to do that, we're going to use CSS. But the first thing that I actually want to do is that I want to structure my H3. You remember the title that is at the top. I want to put it to the center. And then I also want to structure my P tag. I want to put it in the center as well. So now we're going to construct our grid. So the first thing that, of course, we need to do is to call our container. We need to structure it. We need to say, hey, display grid. Now we need to do the grid template. Columns. We want it to repeat about 3 times. And the width to be about 300 pixels. We want to center it, so we're going to set margin auto. We want to give it a bit of padding, say 30 pixels. We're done. We need to structure, we need to style our cells here. So we're going to say cell, I'm going to say color, I want it to be white, width to be about 100 pixels, I want the height to be 100 pixels as well, remember because it's supposed to be a square. I want it to have a box shadow. I want that shadow to be, I wonder if it's necessary though, but okay. I'm going to give it a border of 2 pixels. The border better be solid. And it should be white. I'm going to give it a bit of border radius. Not too much, just 5 pixels. every time you hover through that or you do anything, there should be a pointer. I'll give it a line height of 100 pixels, font size of 60 pixels. I want to make it a bit pronounced. Let me just scroll up. And I want the background color to be black. I want the text to align to the center of the grid. And I want the font weight to be bold. Alright, so if we were to write X's and O's over here, let's see how they would work. Okay, if we go back to our project, you can see that, yeah, I have a feeling my container is supposed to be an ID, not a class. Yes. That's why it's not showing the grid. There we go. This is how it's supposed to be. I like this. This is fine. So there we have our grid. And now the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to start handling our CSS. And I'm going to take you back over here. You remember this winning combination that we had invented or created. And we've done exactly what we said we were going to do. We've created a grid made up of cells, and we've given this cell an individual number that it represents, so that we could have a different permutation of our winning numbers. All right, so we're going to take this combination and we're going to put it in our JavaScript. So we're going to say const. We're going to note down our winning numbers. There's our winning numbers, and then what we want to do is that at the very top, we want to declare false. Now what stop does is if the game is over or all the cells have been filled, then the game is going to stop unless you reset the game. Or if somebody has won, then the game is going to stop. So that means you cannot continue the game. So that's why we've put stop over here. And now we're going to create an on-click event so that whenever, let's go back to our document. So whenever I click here, I'm able to capture the cell that I'm clicking in. So if I click here, it's going to take the cell and it's going to put an X or O depending on what kind of player I am. So that's why we're creating an on-click event. I'm going to say window, add event listener, click. And we're going to create a method called onPlay. Let me just say onClick. Create a method we're going to call onClick. It's going to take in an event. So we're going to say if the game has stopped, then don't continue. But if the game has not stopped and it's player X's turn, then what you need to do is we're going to create a method called player X. We're going to give them this method an event and return. So shortly we're going to create a method that is going to dictate what player X is going to do. And in the same fashion, we're going to create a method for player O as well. So if it's player O's turn, then I want you to run a particular method called player O. We give it an event. Then after that, we're going to return. So this is where our game actually plays. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to make sure that whenever the user clicks over here in this black cell, then either an X or O appears depending on who's playing, rather. So now we're going to create those methods. Function player X. So we're going to say, once again, if the game has stopped, then what you need to do is that you need to don't do anything. Awesome. Remember that this function takes an event, and from that event we're going to get an event ID. We're going to get the ID for this cell so that we can like call it up from the document object model. So we're going to use that ID to run a DOM query. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say document.get element by ID. I'm going to say event dot target dot ID. I'm going to say dot inner text X. And we'll also, and then once you're done, once player X is done playing, we should automatically display or give a note to player O that it's his turn now. And we're going to toggle the turn like that. We're going to do the same thing for player X, honestly. So just copy this down. So we're going to do the same thing for player O. Alright, I think this is good. Now we can go back to our app and check if this works. Just refresh that. And maybe just for now get rid of those X's that we've put in our divs, because we want them to automatically appear. So if we click here, there should be an X, and that's not happening. Let me just go through our code. See. Oh, right here. We haven't declared our turn. So at the very top over here, this we're just going to say let turn equal X. Awesome. Should work. So now if we click here, nothing happens. Why? Go back to our code. Look at that. We need to fix that. And come back. If we click there, awesome. And you can see that each time we click, the turns keep toggling. So, and yeah. So now we need to actually play the game now. We need to check if somebody has won or somebody has not won. So we're going to create a function. I'm going to call it, what should we call it? I think we're going to call it game. And what it's going to do is that it's going to check if the game has been won or not by each individual player. So what it's going to do is that it's going to come back to these combinations that we have over there. In fact, you know what? I think we've properly stated them up here. So it's going to come over here and it's going to check each of these cells, and it's going to check if there is a and it's going to check if those symbols have been directly placed, or yeah, it's going to check if those marks that we've put in there correlate with what these winning numbers over here. So we've already created a function, and it's called game, and it's going to just take in the player, and it's going to check to see whether that person has won or not. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go to winning numbers. I'm going to say for each, I'm going to inspect all those winning numbers. I'm going to say inspect what's inside. I'm going to take the numbers, and we're going to take them out each individually. Remember, there are 3 of them now. So we're going to represent them with letters. I'm going to say document.get element by ID. And this is how we're going to extract that cell so that we can peep inside to see what might be in it. Remember, because this is a number, but in order to use get element by ID, then we need to convert that to a string. And then I'm going to create the last one. Document. This is silly. Why didn't I just copy this? And voila. And what we're going to do is that we're going to say a.innerText is equals to player. And remember, it needs to be a three-way combination. So we need to check each of them individually. Say a.innerText. So if this combination is correct, that would essentially mean that that person has won the game. So let me give you an example, right? So let's say maybe we have a combination of, let's take the top combination, which is 0, 1, 2. So we have a combination array of 0, 1, 2. So what we're going to do is that we're going to inspect these cells that we have over here. We're going to inspect cell 0, 1, and 2. And in this case, this is the cell that we're going to inspect. 0, 1. Let me just use this different color. And I want to rewrite these cells because remember, in what we used is we used a different type of indexing. So let me just get rid of this for now. This would be 0, this would be 1, this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So there it is. This is how we've ID'd ourselves. So now what we're going to do, what our code is going to do, as illustrated in our JavaScript, what our code is going to do is going to get these winning combination 0, 1, and 2. And so what it's going to do now is it's going to check each of these individual cells. And it's going to check the content that is inside. Do you have a 0, or do you have an X, or do you have a 0? And if it discovers that the combination is 0, X, and 0, then this will mean that it's not a win. And if it goes now, the second one is 3, 4, and 5. Let's see. Let's go up and actually, there it is, 3, 4, and 5. So what it's going to do now is it's going to go to cell 3, 4, and 5, and it's going to inspect the cell, each of these cells. And if it discovers that each of these cells have the same mark, then that would mean that it's a winning combination. Hence by the game would mean that player O has won the game. So we go in and inspect each of these individual cells to check if the symbols are the same. That's all. That's what it's all about. 0, 1, and 2. And if you have successfully won the game, we want to change the color of those individual cells to red. We probably want to alert the user that somebody else has won. And then what we want to do now, we want to also remember that H3 that we had created. We want to run a DOM query through that, and we want to say we want to illustrate the person who has won the game, and we want to stop the game. So we're going to say stop is equals to true, so that nobody does anything after that. So we're going to take this game and we're going to put it in here. And remember the parameter for that is the player, so we're just going to write turn. Yeah, game, and we're going to write turn. Okay, so I think this should suffice. Let's go back to our document, and now if we test our game, click over here, click over there, click over here, and it should now indicate that somebody has won this game. And would you look at that? How cool is that, right? So I think you can put some animation onto this to make this really work. We're going to go ahead. I think the last thing that we're going to do is that we're going to try and reset this game. So we're going to create the reset functionality. So I'm going to say function reset game. And what we want to do is that we want to be able to get all those cells, and because what we have currently, like this cell is red now, and it has a letter inside of it. So what we want to do is that we want to return it to its original state. We want it to be black, and we don't want it to have anything inside of it. So of course we're going to use document.getElements by class, so that we can just like do a full sweep of that. And we're going to reference the class name. And we're going to say for all those elements that are inside of that class, I want the background color to be white, to be black, sorry, and I want there to be no text inside. So I'm going to just looped through the elements, and I made sure that each element has now a black background and it doesn't have any inner text inside. And what I also want to do is that I want to make sure that the winner tag is also empty. And I want to start from the beginning so that it's now player X's turn, and I want the game to continue. I don't want it to stop. So I'm going to say false. And yeah, that's about it. So we can now go back to our application, refresh, play it up a little bit. And there you go. It says player O has won this game. And if we come here and we click reset, this should be able. Oh, we haven't actually tied that reset to the reset button. So that's what we need to do. So we need to say on click, and we say reset game. Let's try playing. Right. There you go. And now if we click reset, that game has been reset. All right. We can try it a couple of times. And reset. Awesome. So the link for this game is going to be on the description box. So make sure if you want the source code for this, make sure you check out the description box. So I think this is about it for the Tic Tac Toe game. If you have any questions, or maybe if you're experiencing any problems regarding this, make sure that you leave a comment in the comment section, and I will be happy to attend to that. So other than that, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you like this video, turn on your post notification on, and I will see you next time on Coding 101.